Hello, hello, and welcome to Foreign Takes. It's me, your host, Big Lev. I've moved up in rotation. With me
Woo!
are some of my fellow colleagues. Who's here with me today, boys?
Mr. YT is here. I got bumped down in the hierarchy. I'm no longer the host.
Yeah, it's because Arsenal drew with City, didn't they? That's why. And it's Mr. KG who also drew with Crystal Palace. Let's go.
A lot of smack coming in from below the charts. Alright, what are we talking about today, YT? You want to take the baton?
I take the baton and drop it like the U.S. Olympic sprinters for the 15th year in a row. Only Olympics watchers will get that. I think we should start off at the big one, right, boys? Man City 2, Arsenal 2. So before I go on a whole rant, Big Lev, as neutral number one, did you think this was a fair result?
I will say yes, but here's why. Because Arsenal goals were kind of also suspect. At the same time, they got completely unfair red card. That was just straight out of the high level corruption handbook. I don't know why Michael Oliver keeps getting like this very high level assignments, and he's so arrogant about it every time. Like, and he makes a lot of mistakes. I feel like Arsenal has been fucked over by him like a million times already. Same with Liverpool. So if you put those two together, maybe it was kind of fair. Although I would have said if Arsenal won it, it would have been fairly deserved, just because they fought so hard for it. I do think they're getting closer to having City's number. From winning at home last year to now, like pushing them to the very edge. They're not the lost little boys they were a couple of seasons ago. Every time they went up against City, so it's looking good.
Yeah, I agree with that. KG, again, before I jump in and lose my mind, your thoughts on the game overall?
I agree with what Big Love said. I think it was a fair result given the game on the pitch, right? So, because of the red cards, because of the way Arsenal just was highly efficient with the chances that they got, City obviously having one more person pushed over Arsenal at the end. So it would be a fair result, but again, if Arsenal wouldn't have gone to 10 men, you never know how the game would go. Maybe they could have won it, maybe they would have drawn it, and I think it would have been a fair result. I think the referee mistake is obviously there for everyone to see. Michael Oliver is very, very biased towards Manchester City, and it's not the first time that happened. I think he was the one who gave that penalty on Rodri against United last season, right? When there was
Yes,
just
it was.
hold in the box, which is a regular occurrence in football. This just not giving a yellow card to Doku and then doing it. I mean, Michael Oliver should not be refereeing, and I don't know why he is. And it's more talks about the corruption in the space rather than the game itself. And it's a shame because the game was there were two equal teams, and it would be a good championship. But I'll talk more about the post match or the end of the game situation between the teams after what you're going to say, YT.
Yeah, yeah. No, listen. What Big Lev started off with is exactly it, right? It's not about oh we should have wanted, we should not. It's fine, right? The only thing I think all of us, as it was the biggest game of the weekend, I think we can all agree. The only thing
Yeah.
we wanted was to watch a big spectacle, and once again, the referee's terrible decision making and their inconsistency ruined the spectacle for the majority of people, right? So I actually understand if you're a neutral, you would not be interested in watching 55 minutes of 10v11 of just attack versus defense. It's boring, right? For us, I feel like we're more interested, at least for me, of course, I'm an Arsenal fan, but I just don't understand how they can be so inconsistent within the game. Not even game by game, it's just within the game. You don't give it to Doku, you don't give it to Haaland, and then we get the second one, and you look at it, and it was within like less than a second went between the whistle and the long ball that Leandro Trossard hits. What do you do at this stage? All the other stuff, people talk about oh the black arts, this, or they were cheating. Any team would have done it, right? If you're down to 10 men against Man City, you're going to try to waste as much time. That's the part that frustrates me. Is like we actually feel like we had their number, and once again, the referee's bad decision making has ruined the game for everybody watching, except for of course City
Look, for
itself.
all the people that complain that Arsenal turned into Mourinho, like Arteta turned to Mourinho, they parked the bus. Even when you're up against City, there's really very few teams that can even have a 50-50 possession. It's usually 60 or more to City. So when you're up against them 10 men and leading, like you shouldn't complain that people parked the bus, okay? It's not that they had another choice. They couldn't get out of their own path. Like Arsenal, it
Yes.
wasn't like, oh, we're gonna give the ball away and just hold back. Like they just could not hold the ball.
Yeah.
So this is a game that was ruined by referee. This was a
I get. Agreed.
defensive slug in the second half because of the referee.
It's like
I,
it's like the referees knew it's a spectacle and they wanted all attention on them.
Yeah.
Yeah,
It's like
that's exactly. I mean, as far as the outstanding stuff, I know there's the whole people Arteta, Pep, yada yada. I think the one thing that's very clear is that Arsenal is beginning to get under the skin of the City team, under all of them, and you can
Yep.
see this is now there's a level of I think we saw this a lot with way back in the late '90s, early 2000s. The Marine, not Marine, excuse me, Wenger, Ferguson. At some stage, when it becomes your officially rivals, it becomes getting really. And you saw Bernardo Silva had so much to say after the game. John Stones had so much to say. All of them had so much to say. If you actually compare it to what Arsenal, especially look at Gabriel gave a speech afterwards and everyone, all they said was the game is over, we'll wait to see them at home, as opposed to Bernardo Silva and everyone. They were literally talking shit. Also, to see Haaland being so whiny, so this is it gave me some joy to be like, oh, we're definitely beginning to get under their skin. And they knew that it required the referee's intervention again another year in a row for them to. They didn't even beat us at the end of the day, right? They drew at home. They were incapable. It's crazy. They had more than a full half, and they could not break down our team to beat us, which is something to be proud of. So if you ask me, I'm like, we took 7 out of 9 points away to Villa, away to Spurs, and away to City. I think any team would take that. I think that's fair to say.
yeah, I think it's fair to say. I think it does echo the old rivalries of the 90s between Ferguson and Wenger, or Mourinho and Wenger, or I mean that's already 2000s, or Rafael Benitez versus Sir Alex Ferguson. Those were the good ones. The only difference was that those were the two I would say, or 3 or 4 teams that were actual teams with actual supporters, and not people who joined the bandwagon yesterday and they're trying to talk shit as if they didn't buy their way in. And you know what I had a thought about Manchester City, and Big Love would understand. You know that Manchester City's example is actually quite impressive because they were able to, in accounting terms, there's a term called what's it called? The code of a brand value, the
Goodwill.
goodwill and intangible assets. They actually showed us how much that intangible assets of a brand, of making a team and histories cost. How much did the city put in their team? That's how much you make an actually decent team, because they are winning the leagues and they won the Champions League and all that. So we know how much money you need to spend to actually be a proper team, which is Arsenal and Liverpool's and the Uniteds of the world. So
Yeah.
I mean,
The,
it's not the same rivalry. It's more of a rivalry of individuals rather than a
yes.
United City front. That's what I'm gonna say.
Yes, but
It's
you heard Pep. I think that's the thing. It's like if you saw before the game, after the game, him talking about they're trying to destroy us, all the things we've built, and it really this is the first time he really got under my skin. Him talking about all of our rivals want to destroy us. I'm like, yes, there's a reason you have 115 charges. Of course, the rest of the league doesn't want you. Of course, the fans don't want you because you've bought your way up there. Like, what did you expect that they're gonna welcome you with open hands?
Bro,
No,
because
absolutely not.
because he knows it's his legacy is on the line. His legacy being he never achieved what he achieved with Barca, the quadruple or quintuple or whatever. And even at the Barca, it's now like, oh, was it all Messi? And then he went to Bayern, he didn't do shit. Bundesligas don't count. Then he went to City and finally won another treble, another Champions League that he hasn't won in years. But now everyone's pointing at him and saying, hey, all of those come with an asterisk. You didn't really
Yes.
win them. You kind of like schemazed your way through it. So
Yeah.
that's why he's getting so like um, kind of angry now, and he's so vocal about it
he's
So
because
vocal.
it's
agitated.
about
He's
He
like,
agitated.
is.
yep,
Um,
Yeah.
everyone is
One question.
calling his kind of achievements into question now. which they should.
Yeah, rightly so. I guess a big question, leaving that aside, is of course Rodri is now out for the rest of the season. Of course, KDB will be back next week, and they have Ilkay Gundogan back. Do we think this is will actually impact them? Will it slow them down, or do they have enough depth that the Rodri injury is won't actually be as impactful as people think it
No,
will be?
it's a huge one. I think people don't like they some of them the most points they lost were when Rodri was out. There was last year. There was the year before. There was the year when Liverpool won the Premier League. I think they lost a bunch of games early on in the season because Rodri was unavailable. So he's a huge. It's like irreplaceable. Gundogan is not really a direct replacement for him, and so is and De Bruyne also. So it's gonna be a huge deal. They lose 10% more games without him than with him.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, I'll tell you this. It's a huge loss. I think it's going to be to the point that they're not going to be able to win games, but not lose them, if you know what I mean. Like, they're not going to be able to go on a 15 winning streak. They'll go on a 10 games won, 3 draw, and then maybe 2 lost. That's the composition is going to be. He will find solutions. Like, I don't know who's the substitute of Rodri in that position. I'll tell you who's going to play them. Stones is going to be playing.
Yes.
And you don't have De Bruyne, you're gonna have Gundogan unfold. You know, like he still has good options. Of course, it's not a downgrade from having Casemiro going to Amrabat or from Rice going to Thomas Partey and Jorginho. It's not that type of a drop off, but it is still a bit of a drop off because Rodri is like this main anchor in midfield. They will be losing points. It's going to be much more open this year. And overall, I think across the league is just going to be, I think, a lot of bloodbath. And yeah, and I hope at the end of the season they get their charges and Pep goes to Turkey to get some hair transplants so he needs a new job. Yeah.
On that note, I think it's time to talk about some of the other games. So Liverpool are back to winning ways. So they were very quietly efficient at home. They beat Bournemouth 3-0. Very crazy, right? They're back on it. They had that one little blip at home against Forest, but it's like quiet but very efficient. Does that about summarize the game?
Yeah, and well, in the midweek they beat Milan away 3-1, where they could have scored a lot more. So a good response overall in over the 2 games. Although I think they probably will still have some blips like that, so we're not really in the title race. I do feel better about our top 4 chances.
Right?
Uh,
You guys are beginning to
and
show your strength because the rest of the squad is not beginning to come in and show
and
their strength as
I
well.
would say maybe, hopefully, Luis Diaz has kind of opened up more as a legit Mane replacement because the past 2.5 years he wasn't. He was good. You can see it's there, but he's kind of very in batches. Like he'll be good, then nothing for weeks, then he'll be good, and now he's had like a really good start to the season. He already scored what 5 goals. Uh,
Exactly.
yeah, so I'm being hopeful.
I guess I have one question is there's one player that I think I'm quite disappointed in is Shawazlai. He seems like he's never really part of the game or doesn't really impact the game. But it's hard for me to tell because you obviously watch a lot more games. But it feels like he's this very moody, almost late '90s esque number 10, where when he's in the mood, he'll impact the game, but half the time he doesn't look bothered. Is that
Some
fair?
Mesut Ozil.
Yeah, really. Yeah, Mesut
Yeah.
Ozil esque.
No, Mesut Ozil. So he doesn't look not bothered. He's just like he's not good at what he does when he's not in a mood, right? Like Ozil was amazing. He was super classy, but then sometimes he was just lazy. This is not about him being lazy, but he doesn't have that same class, or he only exhibits it in certain games. So it's kind of getting annoying now. This is okay. First year he started really well, then maybe he got tired. It's a new team, new league, whatever. Um, I don't know if it's now because he's trying to fit into slot system or he just can't figure it out. So he has so far been the most disappointing part of the midfield. If he can figure it out, we'll do much better.
Yeah, because it almost feels like they're playing with 10.5 men. Like, you don't get
Mhm.
the full 50% of him. On a slightly related note, of course, Crystal Palace was at home to Man United, 0-0. Lots going on, and yet no goal. It was one of those Premier League games you don't understand how it was 0-0. KG, fair result?
Yes, it's a fair result because United didn't score. That's simple as this. I only caught the first half and the beginnings of the second half, so I didn't see the end, the last 20 minutes of the game where United did all the subs and that didn't work. But United has only had themselves to blame for not scoring. The amount of sitters that they are not shown, Bruno could not, and Delict as well could not bury, was on them in the first half. Totally dominated Crystal Palace. Should have won. Should have buried it in the first half and just called it a day. I was really unhappy with Ten Hag because the subs he made didn't make sense with 20 minutes to go. He removed all of the ball playing players, and after I saw the subs, I was like, no wonder it didn't work. Like you kept Bruno on, who was very bad that evening, and you took away all the people who can act or who were created that game. Um, I don't know. It's an improvement. United need to win the next. This is a good sight, but if they fail to bring points, his job is on the line. He needs to realize that the goals need to come. And the way United are playing with Xerxes up front, I really like it. He drops down deep. He helps out to create. He creates that space for Rashford, Garnacho, and Ahmad to run in. And that's where those players need to be scoring because you're essentially playing with two up front because of the false nine position that Xerxes has created. So they have to score. Garnacho can't score. Ahmad can't score. They're too young. Maybe they're going to be learning on their job type of thing. So that's where Rashford needs to step up. That's where, unfortunately, Anthony needs to step up. That's where you need to, if Hoyland comes on, he needs to step up from the right side. But I don't see that happening. And the biggest disappointment is from Rashford because yeah, you can score two against Barnes. I'm pretty sure back in the day I could have scored two against Barnes, but I'm not getting paid 300K a week. Okay, my friend, like your job is to score against Crystal Palace, and he can't do that.
Yeah, he really reminded me, Xerxes, of Bobby Firmino with Liverpool, where he drops Mane and Salah come in and they have goal scoring opportunities. Because that what you described is perfect. It's exactly what he did. He created chance after chance, especially for Bruno. Bruno's finishing this game was
Yeah,
maybe the worst game I've seen from Bruno in terms of finishing. A lot of times he's whining and stuff, but this was just he kept chance after chance. He just couldn't finish.
and people are slating Bruno, but it's just one of those games at the beginning of the season. And let's be honest, Bruno's main aim on the pitch is not to score a
Yeah.
goal. His main aim is to provide assists, create chances, move the ball forward. That's kind of his third thing is to score goals whenever he gets the chance. And yeah, it didn't work out very well for him. It's the beginning of the season. It's a one-off. Like everyone gets a bad game once in a while. Like if it happens 5 games in a row, that makes sense. But ask more questions of Rashford. Ask more questions of Garnacho, of Ahmad for not bearing it because they scored 7 versus Barnsley and it was all fine and dandy. Oh, we can score or we can do this, but you can't score one when you get loads and loads of chances. I don't know. Tottenham's going to be a test, and I think if they will be able to beat Tottenham at home in a very convincing fashion, I think that will just flip the switch for this team, and they can compete for the top four.
And it's a good team to play against because Spurs will be pushing high line. There's going to be so much space to run into, like any of the wingers, both left side or right side. It's going to be one of the best games. Even if it's a Hoyland game, he will have space to run into in many
And
ways. It's
also, to that point, United's defense is way better this season than it was last season, and the midfield as well. They do they concede less chances. They're more solid. They concede not as many goals in the limited amount of games that we had. So I think they will be able to withstand Tottenham's pressure, especially with
yeah.
them not having enough options, and
Yeah.
Postecoglou being
And
Postecoglou.
the only caveat is you guys are playing, I think, FC Twente away in the middle of the week, right? Because you're
Oh, what are we gonna do with FC Twente? My God, I don't know.
you sound like Big Love last year, honestly speaking. But it's just like you still have to travel, you still have to get 11. But your bench is finally deep enough that he can rotate properly.
You know what I'm gonna say to Big Lev's point, and I get, and with the Champions League as well. The draw is and the structure of it is so shit that in reality, like, you don't even need to be the top 8 teams.
Exactly.
So, and you play these shitbags, especially in Europa League, because they expanded it. I think last year was the perfect time for the Europa League because they had a lot of teams dropping in and they were already in the Europa League. That we had great games throughout the quarterfinals and semifinals with big teams. This year, now that they expanded the eligibility and nobody's dropping in, the quality is lower than last year. And
Yeah.
now, if you don't need to try every week, you can just rotate with kids because you can lose the first 3 games and then win the next 5, and you're going to be in. So
This is why
it's
I suspect United will have quite a weak team on
no.
Tuesday. Just quickly, just to wrap up for Premier League. So, two other games I want to touch on quickly was one was West Ham 0, Chelsea 3, but it was really uh, Nico Jackson plus Cole Palmer game as usual. They're beginning to roll, right? It, they actually look like they have a plan by Maresca. It's kind of impressive. Or am I being? I mean, West Ham were absolutely dire, but Chelsea's beginning to show some good quality football on the pitch. I think it's fair to say.
I still think Chelsea is too um, reliant on individual performances. It's not as much as good football as like Nico Jackson's becoming better at finishing, Cole Palmer being Cole Palmer, and then those individual and other individual players just like getting them over the hump. West Ham have been abysmal.
That's true.
See, again, they clamor to get Moisey go. They bring in this like foreign weirdo, and like they look so bad.
They do
So
look absolutely
this is like
terrible.
the fourth time they try to get someone, a foreign manager to play sexy football. I look forward to Moisey being back in the building in
Third
like six
time
months.
running.
Yeah.
I guess my question is, how long does Lopetegui really have before they already start talking about getting rid of him?
I
Well,
mean, I
depends
told
how
you,
bad it's gonna get. Are they gonna be
yeah.
around relegation zone?
I mean, they already are basically like that's like the level that they've reached right now. So I think I mean, how many games in? I think we're only 5 or 6 games in,
If they're still
but
there in January, he'll probably be sacked.
because they picked up 4 points from their first 5 games.
Yeah.
I think it's gonna be evident on the. I told you, like, 10th game week to between the 10th and 15th game week. That period is where you're gonna decide where the trajectory potentially can go of the team. And I told you when we did predictions for the Premier League, I told you everyone's thinking that West Ham is gonna be this bee's knees. They have Fulkirk, they have this, they bought Van Bissaka, they're gonna be amazing. Lopetegui is a very very boring manager. Didn't he fail at Real Madrid for being boring, or was it him, or
Yeah,
someone else?
everywhere he's gone, he's
Yeah,
boring.
exactly. So it's going to be boring, and there's no surprise to me that Chelsea outsmarted it. And I agree with Big Love that it was a little bit individualistic brilliance there, with the fluidity of the front three and basically blandness up top from West Ham. But he needs more time to imprint that boring style for West Ham, and they need to give him that style. Whether they like it or not is going to be evident by game week 15. I don't think, personally, I would not like it. I think West Ham is not going to be in the top 10 the way it goes, or they're about 10, 11th. Is that when you're aiming after you're winning the Conference League with David Moyes? That's my question for you.
Yeah, that's a good question.
Yeah.
I think just skipping Premier League for a second. I mean, we had our first week of Champions League, and I know you touched on this earlier with the Europa League. But what do you guys think overall? Because I mean, I watched quite a few games, and it was the first week that they did 3 days: Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. But the widening of the teams resulted in more terrible results. I think is my
Yeah.
take.
The first match day, good. The second and third were so bad. It's like so many bad games by good teams. It was just not up to par. I think because usually you want it to come out strong. You want to win your first two games in a group, so you're not like scrambling at the end. Or also, you can, if you win your first three games, you're basically like pretty much guaranteed an exit, so you can rest people. Now I think the teams are still not sure what it means to qualify for the next stage, so you're gonna get a bunch of these weird games where like they're not really giving their all, but they're also kind of playing like, strong lineups. So far, not a good start. Let's see how it goes. But Liverpool looked good. Milan looked atrocious.
Milan looked atrocious, but they made up for it this weekend by looking less atrocious.
Yep.
Yeah, but overall,
It
not
just
great.
looks like a league game during the week.
Yeah,
If you're
that's it. Doesn't feel special, right?
yeah,
Yeah,
no.
exactly.
There's no
Like,
group. Like, remember last year when there was like the movements in the group because it was so delicate in so many games that they needed to score. Like they removed all of the competition away and made it streamlined. That was
yeah,
the only competition that when you talk about with North American fans that they were like, oh, you just win a lot of games and then you become the champion. You would then go, no, you also have a Champions League when you play a playoff, which is similar to what the NFL is. And they stripped it of all the magic that football fans had and the diversity and the enjoyment that football fans have and made it the same streamlined thing that will go there. I think last
yeah.
season is just not interesting. I don't know. I don't know how you guys feel. Obviously, you're more invested in it because United's not playing in the Champions League. But for me, half of the games I would skip. I didn't feel like I missed out on any of the games that were in there. I think I watched Arsenal versus Atalanta, and then it was evident that
Terrible game.
Arteta, yeah, Arteta was planning for the City game, and he channeled his inner Mourinho, the better coach out of better than his teacher coach, to get the result.
Yeah,
Yeah, exactly. Like, remember, Champions League used to be only playoffs.
Yeah,
Like they didn't even have a group stage in the 90s. And then
maybe we should go back to
they
that.
added this, and now it's as you said, it's not special. You used to have 6 games to figure your shit out. Now you have more games, so you're gonna have a lot of more dead rubber game matches, and
yep.
you have way more teams. It's just not the same.
Yeah, pretty fair, honestly. Well, hopefully there's an improvement. But boys, I think it's about that time. Hero and donkeys of the week with plenty and plenty of choices. So
Yeehaw!
that's their new intro. I will go first this week. So let me start off with Donkey of the Week. Once again, ladies and gentlemen, I give you the PGMOL as the Donkeys of the Week. Nothing special. This is my third week in a row, and they keep proving how stupid they are. Honestly speaking, there's nothing much to say. And the worst part is, we're not gonna have to see Michael Owen going on that fucking stupid TV show of his where they just say, yes, all the decisions were correct. It's like we investigated ourselves and we found nothing wrong. Very special of them. That's Donkey of
Mhm.
the Week. My hero of the week is a little controversial. I have to give my hero of the week to Vincent Company at Bayern. Bayern have had the best start in their entire history in the Bundesliga, and they of course destroyed Zagreb 9-2, despite almost coming close for the first. You have to give him some credit. Like as much as we dismissed him, 4 wins out of 4 plus the Champions League. Vincent Company, good start. Big
All
love.
right. Yeah, he played some suspect teams, but okay. I'll suspend the hate for now.
Yes.
They're playing Leverkusen next weekend, so
Yeah, let's see.
Which is why I
you're
gave it now, not next week. Don't worry.
yeah.
I'm gonna give my hero of the week to another embattled person who I've previously only showered with hate. It's Nico Jackson. Nico Jackson, 2 very good finishes and assists, looked like a proper striker. Honestly, has probably all the attributes. And if Chelsea wasn't a complete shit show, had like a good striker ahead of him who could kind of mentor him, he would have been a menace by now. Still has a chance to be a menace, just like another Colombian Darwisi. So
Yeah.
he takes
Good
the
shout.
hero of the week. Maybe he'll continue like this, then he'll be a problem for the league. My donkey of the week is someone who is a superstar but behaved like a child and a little bitch. that's Erling Haaland, he was just so rattled. First of all, just slamming that ball against Gabriel's head, then telling Mikel Arteta, who is kind of annoying, to be humble. For a player of his caliber, it just kind of looks stupid, weak, and pathetic, honestly, that he's so easily rattled. And I think he has the ego of a Messi, while he's not really Messi. And the fact that he's useless for Norway kind of shows that.
Good shouts, honestly. Very much agreed. The ball throwing thing, I was just like, what are you doing, man? You scored a goal? Like, it's just so unnecessary.
Yeah.
Or go for it and punch it. Why you got to do this cowardly thing?
Because it's
KG?
Erling Haaland. My donkey of the week is gonna be the similar to UIT, the entirety of the PGMOL. Not only because of the shitty call that you endured and experienced in the Arsenal versus Man City game, but also because of Vicario not getting a red card in the Tottenham game. If you saw that,
The handball?
handballed it completely outside, and the fucking VAR. You have a computer with a rewind possibility. You can stop the ball. It's clear as day, and they didn't give it. It's sometimes it feels like it's not. There's no rules. It's just vibes. You know, they're like, I don't feel like giving a red today. You know what? I feel like Vicario deserves to stay on the pitch. You know, I think that's what it is.
It was blatant though, right? Like it
Wait,
wasn't like close. It was like he did three like a volleyball. You don't even do that
yeah,
in volleyball three times. He did it more
and
than a volleyball player.
yeah, it wasn't like, oh, it was on the line, wasn't on the line. No, he did it on the line, before the line, and then after the line. Like he did it everywhere. And PG Moel, you're just never gonna change, because I sincerely believe if something doesn't change and they repeat it, they're either insane or they're corrupt. Do you think they're insane? They don't look insane. I think they're
Look,
corrupt.
how can something change when you? It's like same if you're alcoholic. If you do
Yeah.
not accept that you're an alcoholic, you will keep being an alcoholic. Same if you do not accept that you're a corrupt piece of shit that keeps making mistakes. Because you know what happened? What pissed me off? Immediately after the game, Roy Keane came out calling Arteta. Oh, he's complaining about the referees. Every time there's a huge refereeing mistake, they'll have one of their mouthpieces try to divert attention,
Oh yeah.
blame like someone for being complaining, and it's honestly it just looks really bad. It looks it makes us sound like we're some insane conspiracy theorist people when they're just so transparently bad and just purely like do not have the sporting integrity. And if you're Roy Keane, you're a legend. You always try to like say like something, even if it's against the standard. Even if they got to you, it's very sad.
No,
That's
I
true.
don't. I don't believe that they got to Rokin. I think that the reason why Rokin says it, because he doesn't like whiny people. It just perfectly plays into this narrative. The reason why it's stupid is because, yeah, he would probably say, I assume this is what he said. Yeah, in our times the referees made mistakes and we moved on with it. That's just straight up Roy Keane's character. But the problem is that when he played and a referee made a mistake, they didn't have the technology to stop it, review it, and then
Yeah,
not do it again. You
Yep.
have the technology, and you have a whole new body of the governance that's supposed to be doing that, and yet it just propels the same mistakes. It makes them worse. It just makes them look more incompetent. It's like you're giving a blind man a surgery to be able to see. He sees everything, and he still doesn't see that his nose is too big. You know, like that. That's
yeah.
the
I,
stupidity.
I hate this. Like in my time, we did this. Yeah, in the
Yeah.
Middle Ages, if you got a cut, you would get a sepsis and die. So
Yeah.
now, like people shouldn't complain now if like a doctor fucks up.
All right.
Yeah.
Going back to it, who's your hero of the week?
My hero of the week is the entirety of the Marseille team, along with uh,
The rapist.
the Brace, the Zerbi, not the
Deserving.
rapist, the Zerbi, not the rapist, because they had the audacity to, with 10 men, being 10 men on 10th minute of the game, to win 3-2. Not only did they came back from 1-0 down to 2-1 up to 2-2 to 3-2, but they're also like actually bringing competition to PSG. I doubt that they will win, but it's refreshing to see some
Yeah,
teams.
it's a good shout. They've been looking quite good. The team is weirdly structured, but Deserby's making it work. Very good
Yeah.
shout.
We know who's looking like a donkey of the off season.
Who?
One of the stars of Georgia team, George Mikautadze, who he was a joint top scorer of Heroes. He was supposed to go to Monaco, did not go to Monaco, asked his agent to get him to Lyon because that's where he started in youth. Walked into another shit show after his shit show at Ajax. Lyon is shambles. They can't get their shit together. He barely plays. Even when he plays, he hasn't done anything. And so now it's looking really bad. Well, Monaco is right there sitting in the top four.
Yeah.
Yeah.
See, this is what you get for not going to a stable team. It's really
Yeah.
his fault. Boys, to wrap up, I figured we should do our betting odds after mine and Big Lev's disastrous appearance last week and KG absolutely cleaning us up. I figured this week I'm gonna take a different strategy. So I will start. I have a 3 parlay. So I have Brighton to beat Chelsea by 1.5 over. So I think Brighton are gonna come good. I have Wolves to beat Liverpool under 1.5. I should have actually done a specific score. I should have done a 3-2 for Wolves. And then I have Man United versus Spurs tie, but I think it's going to be a goal fiesta, so I'm saying over 1.5. And my $15 will net me $6,615 because I'm going to be a rich man.
You're
Okay,
taking it seriously.
so your approach is just to be insane.
Yeah.
Don't worry. All right, what you got up for
Wolves
us,
are not
KG?
beating Liverpool.
I have two. I have one unserious and one serious, just so you can catch up. So the unserious one is Arsenal to beat Leicester and more than 2 goals. I have United to beat Tottenham and more than 2 goals, and I have Chelsea v Brighton match to result in a tie or a Brighton result, and both teams to score. So essentially, a
Oh,
one-one draw
interesting.
would be sufficient for me. I think Chelsea are going to drop points against Brighton. That's my not serious one, and then my serious one is Bayer Leverkusen versus Bayern Munich, over 2 goals and both teams to score. Leipzig to beat Augsburg and over 1.5 goals, and Inter Milan to beat Udinese with over 1.1 goals.
Yeah, good shouts.
Good
Honestly.
shouts. Good shouts.
Big Love, what you got for
I
us?
have a 4-leg parlay. Newcastle to beat City. See, I'm starting off strong. Also, tie for Chelsea with Brighton. I agree with KG's take there. Liverpool to beat Wolverhampton and Arsenal to beat Leicester. All in all, the coefficient is 32, so $15 nets me 488.
Pretty good. Pretty good.
So
Honestly.
far, I'm at the leaderboards because one of my parties came in. So
I think that's not even a competition right now after the performance that Big Lev and I have had. You've been absolutely cleaning up, honestly. Boys, I think that's a wrap from us, and we will see you next week.
yes, after United beat Tottenham.
Mm-hmm.